I was born in Richmond, Virginia, an idyllic city steeped in Southern charm and an inexplicable fondness for erecting statues of Confederate soldiers. I grew up in a suburb called Bon Air and spent my childhood playing soccer, riding bikes with my friends, and other typical kid things that I didn't particularly care for, but it was the suburbs, and those are the rules. I got my first guitar when I was 10, and it quickly became the only thing I cared about. My initial guitar heroes were guys like George Harrison and Jimi Hendrix, but I also loved the acoustic music that permeated Richmond back then, particularly players like Leo Kottke and Tommy Emmanuel. I graduated from high school in 1992 and set out to become famous. I spent the 90s and early 2000s playing as a solo artist and in the bands Circle Limit 1 and Pop Culture Casualties. Together, we crisscrossed this great country of ours, playing in some of the era's most legendary rock and roll dungeons. Fame, however, proved elusive, and as adolescence gave way to nascent adulthood, I decided to leave Richmond behind and move to Philadelphia. I had become hopelessly charmed by the city in my travels as a young man, and after the music scene in Richmond dried up, I pulled up stakes and headed north. There was an unself-conscious nature to the artists I met here which I loved, and a citywide enthusiasm for risk-taking that seemed unthinkable back home. It didn't take long for me to fall into a scene with a bunch of like-minded, slightly older, slightly jaded musicians, and I spent the rest of the 2000s playing in bands with great potential, all of which fell apart for one reason or another. Well, one reason. Punk musicians have the emotional maturity of 4-year-olds. To make ends meet while the bands weren't performing, I took a job teaching guitar lessons at a school in the Philly suburbs. I quickly realized that I had found my calling and dedicated most of my energy to becoming an amazing teacher. I started working with a great group of kids, teaching one-on-one lessons and group rehearsals, performing at various clubs around the city. As for my music career, I came to embrace the social Darwinist reality that states, if one can play bass and play it well, one will never be out of work. So I put away my guitar and I took up residence in the rhythm section. This led to some of the most enjoyable bands I'd been in, and it got me playing on much nicer stages and driving to those stages in much nicer vans. Around this time, I also began regularly playing traditional Irish music. Coming from an Irish family, I'd always had a fondness for this stuff, and Philadelphia has a robust folk and trad music community. Like many trod-upon cultures of the world, the music of Ireland is a fascinating combination of sorrow and joy and is an absolute blast to play. In 2011, I began teaching for School of Rock. Yes, it's a real thing. It was there that my life as a teacher really began to blossom. Over the years, I've worked with hundreds of kids at schools in Fort Washington, Berwyn, and Media, eventually becoming the music director of the school in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Working for School of Rock has been an amazing experience. The most important part of my job is to help students embrace who they are and what they believe in, and then send them into the world with the confidence to defend those beliefs, and to help them navigate the unmitigated wretchedness of adolescence and provide a safe space for them to grow as both musicians and people. Like the hero of many an Irish ballad, in the year of our Lord 2015, I met a bewitching Irish lass named Cecilia. It took a couple minutes, but I fell arse over tea kettle in love with her, and we've been together ever since. And as one does when one meets one's soulmate, we got married. I know many people dream up their ideal partner as a thought experiment, but I don't know many who get to actually meet them. And I know fewer still who fall in love with them and have the delirious good fortune to have them love you back. But that fortune was about to get even better. On September 24th, 2020, our lives changed forever with the birth of our son, Simon. Having a child in the middle of a global pandemic may not have been our initial plan, but welcoming him into the world has made that world impossibly, unimaginably crammed with pure manic joy. Watching our son grow up and facing the challenges of being parents has given my wife and I a new perspective on our own lives and ambitions. It's that perspective that inspired me, with my copious free time as the parent of a toddler, to return to school and take the next step in my career as a teacher. My goal is one day to teach music history or theory at the collegiate level, But whatever level I end up, my philosophy as a teacher will always be to use music as a tool to help students find their own voice and help them to express what might otherwise have gone unsaid.